Live from my brand new studio, it's Aligning with the Stars. Da 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 da. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Aligning with the Stars with me, your host, Aline. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, Allie, what are you doing? Why are you recording another episode when there hasn't been another episode of Dancing with the Stars? But when I was thinking about what I wanted to do with this show, I realized that I wanted to also have a previews and predictions episode in addition to my recapping and thoughts episode. That way we could really dive into each dance style that we're going to see that week, what to expect from the stars and the pros, and make some predictions for how everyone's going to do. So that's what today is, and that's what episodes that will come out hopefully Sunday or Monday moving forward will look like. I'm going to be doing, like I said, previews and predictions. But before I get into all of that, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who has watched and supported me so far. I also want to give a huge shout out to my incredible boyfriend, John. He helped me put together this incredible new setup to make this look a lot better than what I did last week, where I was just recording on my laptop with a fake green screen on Zoom. So this is a lot better than that. I also want to point out this mirror ball trophy that he made for me today. He spent his whole Sunday making that. It is so accurate to the real mirror ball. It's incredible. I made these little 10 paddles back there, and it took me pretty much the same amount of time that it took him to do a whole entire trophy, and that was so much harder, and he did so much better than me. So thank you, John. I love you. All right, for this episode, before we get into going over the styles that we're going to see this week and some predictions, I do want to take a step back and sort of talk about ballroom and Latin. When most people talk about Dancing with the Stars, they just talk about it as a ballroom dancing show, but really we're seeing both ballroom dance and Latin dance. So before we get into the styles, I just want to talk about the differences between those and what to expect from each style. Quick disclaimer, I never trained in ballroom or Latin. It was one of the styles that I didn't do growing up, but I did a lot of research for this episode, and I've watched a lot of Dancing with the Stars, so that helps me get informed on these. But if I make any mistakes, I apologize. I tried to do a lot of research and check a lot of sources. So hopefully it's all accurate, but apologies in advance if I get anything wrong. So ballroom. Ballroom is typically done in hold, a close hold, so your bodies will be touching. You'll hear the pros and everyone on the show refer to this as in frame. It's a very fluid dance, very elegant and smooth. It should be very poised. It's often slower movement overall. You'll still have some moments of quick, sharp movement depending on the style of ballroom, the type of ballroom dance that you're doing. But even in those quick moments, you're really focusing on the connectivity both between you and your partner's bodies and the connectivity of movement from movement. So you want it to all flow into one big story. It's very graceful. You're going to feel the rise and the fall in those dances, and you'll see it as well within their movement style. And some types of ballroom dance include waltz, tango, foxtrot, and quickstep. Now for Latin on the other hand is not typically done in that closed hold. It's mostly done side by side or separated, but when they do have a hold, it's different from your typical ballroom hold. It's a little more open, it's a little more sharp, and like you're focusing on kind of grabbing each other's elbows rather than like your whole body being connected. Latin movement is typically more sharp, it's typically more rhythmic. You'll see a lot more facial expressions, a lot more like, not joy, but a lot more movement in their faces. You'll also see a lot of movement in the hips. That's a really big focus in a lot of Latin styles. Latin is very playful, it's usually a little flirty, oftentimes very intense, and it's always very high energy. Some Latin styles include cha-cha, samba, salsa, rumba, paso, and jive. I typically tend to favor the Latin styles more because I think they're just a little more fun, and I think it falls in line with the type of dance that I like to do growing up. But again, I never did ballroom or Latin, so I can't really say which one's better. I don't think there really is a better style. So now I want to talk about the styles that we're going to see this week. We're going to see a total of 6 styles, I believe, across the 14 stars. Last week we only saw 4, and one of those was just Robert doing the jive, so we're going to see a lot more variety this week, which I'm excited for. First, we're going to talk about cha-cha because we see the most stars doing that this week. We have 4 couples doing that. We also saw a lot of cha-cha last week. It's kind of one of the styles that they tend to focus on in the beginning because it's a little easier than the rest of the styles. So this week, we're going to see Corey, Danielle, Scott, and Whitney doing the cha-cha. This will be the first Latin dance for all of them, as they all did the tango last week, which is an in-hold ballroom dance. Cha-cha is very upbeat, it's very syncopated. You have that classic staccato cha-cha-cha rhythm, which will be present throughout the whole dance. You'll want to look for really good hip action on that cha-cha-cha too. That's called the Cuban motion. It's one of the fundamental parts of the cha-cha, so you really want to make sure that you're the one doing the dance. You want to look for your stars doing that cha-cha-cha with their hips, not the shoulders. But you can't see my hips. And it should be very fun and playful and maybe a little flirty. I think that Whitney is going to do an incredible job with the cha-cha. She already had such great stage presence in her week 1 dance, and I think that will show even more in a Latin dance where there's a little more fun and flavor just built into the dance style itself. I don't anticipate her struggling with the hip movement or the footwork. We know that she has a dance background, so she should be familiar with that kind of movement already. And I expect a very fun and flirty performance from her. I think through her TikToks and, especially with the second season of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives coming out, we've seen a little bit more of her personality. We see that she's kind of a fun person. So I expect it to be a fun performance from her. And especially with Mark, he's going to have such great choreography for her. I can really see her shining here. I'm hoping that we see some 8s for her again. I also think that Danielle is going to do relatively well with this style. I don't think she'll be as strong as Whitney when it comes to the cha-cha, but I think she's going to have fun with it. I think she's going to have a great smile like she did last week. I don't think any one element of the cha-cha is going to stump her, but I think it's going to be more of a combination of little things that are going to make the performance just a little bit weaker compared to what Whitney's going to do. But I think overall I see her placing in the top half of the stars this week. I'm thinking maybe 6 or 7s. I think that Corey and Scott are both going to struggle with the cha-cha this week, and for similar reasons. I was really disappointed with Scott last week. I was kind of expecting him to come with a little more oomph and a little more energy, but I felt he was very stiff. And for both of them, I think the hip movement is going to stump them. I think Corey's not going to be able to get that down, and I think Scott is still going to carry that stiffness from week 1 into his cha-cha. I see 5s for Corey, maybe a 6, and I'm anticipating 6s for Scott. But I really hope that he proves me wrong because I want him to be good. I expect so much more from him. I mean, he's in an a cappella group. He is a performer. I feel like they move a bit on stage. I've never really watched a Pentatonics video, but I feel like he can just give us more. So maybe the cha-cha will be his breakout. Next, we have the jive. We have 3 stars doing the jive. We have Jordan, Alex, and Elaine. We saw an incredible jive from Robert last week, so we know what to look for with that really high energy, really fun and exciting routine. Jive is very fast-paced, it's very bouncy. You're going to see a lot of the kicks and flicks and fast footwork. You may also see some fun lifts and jumps. I love that jump that Robert did with Whitney. That is such a staple in Dancing with the Stars jives. You see that in pretty much every jive ever. It always does scare me every time, though. I feel like someone's going to mess it up, and I can't remember a major fail of that jump. I guess if you're in rehearsals and it's not working, you just don't do it. But it scares me every time. I'm always like, oh, are they gonna make it over? Is he gonna clip her? But we'll see. I anticipate seeing a lot of that this week. The jive requires really strong stamina. It requires good coordination, both within your own body, coordinating your hands and your feet, but also with your partner, especially because you're out of hold for a lot of it. So you're not relying on that body connection to be together. You have to feel their energy. You have to be on time. You have to be on your counts in order to succeed in the jive. I honestly think that out of these 3 stars, Elaine is going to give us the best jive this week. I think similar to Whitney, her stage presence was so incredible in her week 1 dance. So she has that down, and with her dance background, I don't think she's going to struggle picking up the choreo. And since the jive has so many steps and a lot of content, that could be hard for some stars, especially if they've never done the jive before, if they've never danced before, having to learn a dance style and having to remember all that choreography in such a short amount of time can be hard for them. But I don't see that being an issue with Aline. I think she could get 7s, maybe an 8. So I'm thinking maybe 2 7s and an 8. And I really anticipate a good jive from her. Alex, I think overall will be good, but might struggle with completing some of her lines. I don't know exactly why I feel this way, but I feel like she's going to be a little bit flailing, which is a harsh word, and I'll explain what I mean by that. I think she's going to have so much energy and be so excited that when she goes to do her arms or do her kicks, she's going to come out really sharp, but then might forget about her hands or might forget about her feet. And so she'll have like a good strong movement, but then her hand will get floppy. I don't know why I feel that way, but I see her doing that in her jive. But we saw on TikTok that Val had her doing like wearing ankle weights and wrist weights while she was training to get her stamina up. And she is young and energetic. You know, she goes out clubbing, she dances a lot in that sense. So I think she'll do relatively well. I just don't know. I feel like she has such long limbs that might be a hindrance for her. I see 6s and 7s in her future. I think it's going to be a very similar score to what they got last week, but I'm excited for it. I think they'll come out with strong choreography and it'll be a fun and exciting routine. For Jordan, I'm having a bit of a hard time reading her. I don't really know what to expect, but with her athleticism and the fact that she is a gold medalist gymnast, I anticipate her doing well. I'm hoping that Ezra will come with some really fun and creative choreography. Census is a Latin dance and they don't have to be in hold. They have a lot more room for exciting stuff. And I think that he'll really thrive there. I think they can do a lot of cool tricks. We saw a lot of that in week 1, but it wasn't really matching the dance in week 1. So I think they can lean more into that week 2. But hopefully they still have a lot of good classic jive elements. And I think with her strong legs, she's probably going to have really great kicks and flicks. So I see 7s for them. I'm hoping for maybe an 8. But honestly, I don't even know if the judges are going to give out 8s this week. It sometimes can be a little political in their scoring of, oh, it's too early to give an 8. So who knows? So that's for the jive. Next up, we have the tango. And we also have 3 stars doing the tango this week. We'll see Hilaria, Robert, and Andy all doing the tango. This will be the first ballroom dance for all 3 of them. And I personally think it's harder to go that way, to do Latin first and then ballroom, because typically for your first dance, you have more time to learn it because it's their very first time doing Dancing with the Stars. So learning the frame over a longer time is probably easier because that's often the hardest element for people to get. Tango is usually done in a very close hold. It's a very intimate dance. Your bodies are connected. You'll see a lot of powerful walks. You'll see them taking up the whole stage with those walks. You see a lot of dramatic poses and a lot of sharp head snaps. Tango is a very, very fun dance to watch. I really loved Whitney's tango last week because you saw a lot of those elements, the poses, the heads, the intense walks. She had a lot of that going for her. So overall, it should be very intense, dramatic, and sharp. It should draw you in. You want to see like a controlled intensity and then bang, sharp movement. So it should be fun. I think Hilaria is going to eat this up. We know that she has the ballroom experience, so I think she'll be able to focus on those little details that make a tango so exciting and not get caught up in the nitty-gritties of having to learn the tango technique. I was really impressed with her legs last week. Not only were they so incredibly toned, but I felt like she was really using the leg work, not just the footwork, but the leg work. So I'm hoping that we see some of that fun leg stuff again this week. And Gleb is also the king of creating sexual tension with his partner. So I think with all those elements, they are going to come out with a really strong tango. I'm very curious to see how Robert is going to handle this dance. It is such a sharp contrast from the jive that he did last week in terms of emotion and the vibe of it. The jive is very fun and playful, which matches him as a person. We see he's very charismatic, he's very upbeat, he's very smiley. And the tango, it's very dramatic and it's very intense. And I've never really seen that side of Robert on his social media and on television and stuff. But Whitney is such a good pro that I know she's going to be able to play to his strengths. So I'm really excited to see what they do. And I think he's going to come out with that intensity. I think he's taking this very seriously. Obviously, his sister won 10 years ago, so he's got big shoes to fill. So I imagine he's training very hard. So I don't think it's going to be bad by any means. I'm just more curious about how they're going to do. And I wonder if, since this is his first time in frame, if that's going to be hard for him. Maybe the frame the first time will look a little stiff. It might look a little awkward. But between his work ethic, and we know that they're going to have many, many weeks ahead of them, I anticipate them making it to the finale, if not winning. And with Whitney being such a good pro, I don't think that's going to be a long-standing issue. If there is a frame issue this week, I expect it to be one and done. The last star that we'll see doing the tango is Andy. I think this is going to be very enjoyable, but I don't think it's going to be anything crazy. I could see them having a lot of fun with the choreography, especially playing into Andy's humor. Obviously, he's an incredible comedian. So I don't know. It's not going to be any crazy footwork or crazy dramatic lifts or turns or whatever, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good time. Also, a quick side note, Emma went on Bobby Bones' podcast or radio show or whatever and was talking about how people online were like feeling bad for her for being partnered with Andy and being like, you need to advocate for yourself, Emma. You need to get better stars. And she was like, I feel so bad because I love this role. She said that this is where she excels as a pro. Like, she was the best pro to be paired with Andy. She can give him the best experience, and she seems to really enjoy that. And I just feel like if I was in Andy's shoes, I would feel so sad that people are like, oh, Emma gets stuck with Andy. That would suck. It seems like they really enjoy their time. It's probably going to be a short amount of time that they're both on the show together, but they're going to have fun while doing it. I anticipate 5s, maybe a 6. I don't think they're going to be a high scorer. I imagine them in the bottom 3, but you're going to smile while watching it. That I guarantee. Next up, we're going to talk about the samba. We have 2 pros doing the samba, Baron and Dylan. This is a new style for this week. Samba is a Latin dance style, and they both did Latin last week, so that they have going for them. Samba is very lively, it's very bouncy. You want to look for the bounce in both the hips and the knees. That's kind of new. Usually a lot of the movement is based in your hips. You'll see the samba whisk, which went viral on TikTok last year. That's like a figure 8 with your hips as you're stepping. It's very bouncy, very light, very energetic, but it is surprisingly hard for what it looks like. You may also see a samba roll. That's kind of when both pairs of the couple are facing forward and their like bodies are against each other. So if I was in front, the male pro would be behind me. In this situation, I am the star. And then your arms are like this and you do like an upper body roll. And it's hard. It's hard to get that synchronized. So I don't know if we'll see the samba roll this early in the season. And honestly, I'm surprised that they're doing a samba week 2. I feel like last season we had to wait till further into the season to see a samba. I don't know if the Joey and Jenna samba was the first one, and that was Disney week. So that was like a couple episodes in. But I may be totally wrong there, and I just remember that being the first samba because it was the best samba of the season. Overall, samba is very joyful, it's very vibrant, and you should look for that good bounce. That needs to be present in the samba for it to be truly a good samba. I think both stars are going to do well with this. I think Baron especially, he had a really good groove in his week 1 dance, really good energy. He did a cha-cha last week, and I felt like he could give us more choreography-wise. So I'm hoping Britt sees that, leans into giving him maybe more content, more steps. I really think he can handle it. Let him have fun. Let him be playful. It'll work in his favor. And he's a former basketball player, so I feel like his footwork is going to be good. So honestly, I see this being a really good dance. They got 5s last week. I'm hoping for at least 6s, and I would love to see a 7. I really think that they have it in them. For Dylan, I need more energy from him. I said last week he had first week jitters, but I just felt like he needed to give us more. And Danny is so incredible, especially in the Latin styles, that her energy is going to be off the charts. So she needs to push him to match her energy. Otherwise, it's going to fall flat. I think they did a cha-cha last week. that fell flat for me. There was just something missing, and I think it was Dylan's energy. I think it was he needed more of a performance quality. So this is going to be a big moment for Dylan to prove if he is going to be a good contestant in Dancing with the Stars or if he's just going to fall flat for us. I'm hoping for 7s for them, but I fear they could be in the 6 range if the energy just isn't there. That's really what I need to see from Dylan that week, is this energy. So we have 2 more styles that we're going to see this week with 1 star doing each style. We have Jen with a quick step and Lauren with a foxtrot. These are both new styles going into this week. The quick step, it's very fast paced, it's very lively, it should be very light and airy. You want to feel like you're gliding across the floor. There's going to be hops, there's going to be skips, there's going to be quick little partner turns where you're in frame and kind of like jumping around each other into a circle. It is a ballroom style, so you'll want to have that strong frame and very upright posture. It's a very elegant dance. I am very, very excited to see Jen do this. I feel like she seems like a very bubbly person, so I feel like her personality is going to shine in the quick step. I'm also excited to see Jan's choreography. I feel like last week he focused too much on the tricks, and I think he realizes that he doesn't need to do all of that. It kind of slowed them down last week. So I'm really excited to see what they put out this week. I think she had so much potential with that salsa, and that potential will hopefully shine through in her quick step. My bold prediction is I think they could get an 8. I don't think it'll be all 8s, maybe a mix of 7 and 8s, but I really want to see an 8 for them with this quick step. And lastly, we have the foxtrot, and like I said, Lauren is going to be doing this foxtrot. The foxtrot is also a ballroom style, but Lauren did tango last week, so that is not new for her. She has done a dance in frame. Foxtrot should be very smooth. Every move should flow into the next. Similar to other ballroom styles, the couple is going to want to utilize that whole stage. I love when people go corner to corner in like one big pass. You want to see them gliding across the stage, almost looking like it's one movement. Should feel very sophisticated, very classy. I'm really excited to see Lauren in this style. It is such a sharp contrast from what she did last week in her tango, but her stage presence really blew me away last week, and because she is that performer, she has somewhat dance experience from her dancing in Fifth Harmony. I think she's really gonna kill this foxtrot, and I can't wait to see her in this more cheery, smiley style. She also had a really good sense of timing in her tango, and with the foxtrot, there's a focus on this slow, quick rhythm that's going to be present throughout the whole dance. So I think that they can have some fun with the timing and really play around with some unique ways to utilize that in the foxtrot. And I also sense an 8 coming for her. I know I said 8 for a lot of these stars, so I fear that they're not going to give any 8s, and that's going to look tough for me. But they did give some week 1s. I feel like they have to give more week 2. But those are all of our styles for week 2, which is One Hit Wonder Night. This week, I believe, is a double elimination, so we will be saying goodbye to 2 of our stars. Don't forget to vote if you watch live. Vote for your favorite couple. You get 10 votes per couple per voting method. Julianne usually struggles with that, and I did that on my first try. I sadly think we're going to say goodbye to Andy and Corey. Usually in the first couple of weeks, it is the weakest dancers that go home before we get into any controversial eliminations. And I think that their dances are the weakest, especially based off the week 1 scores. They both scored 9. I don't know. I don't know that they have fan bases that are also watching Dancing with the Stars and voting for them. So I think that they'll be going home on Tuesday. A surprise exit could be Hilaria. I know a lot of people don't like her, so probably aren't voting for her, but I think people who don't know who she is would probably vote for her because she's really good, and her high scores will probably push her through to week 3. So I think it's going to be Corey and Andy. I'm going to be shocked if it's anyone outside that list. Maybe Baron, but I anticipate his scores to be higher than Corey and Andy, and I think they'll probably receive this similar amounts of votes. So those are my predictions. Overall, I'm very, very, very excited for week 2. Week 1 is very fun, but week 2 is where things start to get serious, and you can tell if people are actually going to be really good or if they're just going to be a one dance wonder. So that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you guys after Tuesday's episode to talk about all the incredible dances that we hope to see and talk about who went home. In the meantime, I hope you have a 10 of a week.